The scream pierced the early morning calm of Riverside Park, jolting Sebastian Martinez from his routine jog. In one fluid motion, he pivoted toward the sound, his years of firefighter training kicking in before conscious thought could form. 50 yards ahead, near the water's edge, a young woman was struggling with a masked assailant who had one hand over her mouth and another grasping her purse. Emma, Sebastian's 8-year-old daughter Lily, cried out from behind him, recognizing the woman somehow. "Stay right here, don't move," Sebastian commanded, pointing to the bench they'd just passed. "Count to 300. If I'm not back, find a police officer." He sprinted toward the attack, heart hammering against his ribs. The woman, barely more than a girl, maybe early 20s, was fighting valiantly, but the man had at least 60 pounds on her. As Sebastian closed the distance, he could see tears streaming down her face, smudging what looked like expensive makeup. "Hey," Sebastian shouted, "let her go." The attacker's head snapped up, revealing cold eyes through the ski mask. He shoved the woman hard, sending her sprawling onto the damp grass, before pulling something from his pocket that glinted in the early light. A knife. Sebastian slowed his approach, hands raised. "You don't want to do this, man. Cops patrol this park every 10 minutes. You've got maybe 3 before they come around that bend. Stay back," the man growled, waving the blade. "This isn't your problem." The young woman was scrambling backward, clutching her torn designer coat around her. Sebastian recognized terror when he saw he'd pulled too many people from burning buildings not to know that expression. "I'm making it my problem," Sebastian said evenly, mentally calculating the distance between them. "My daughter is watching." "You really want to add child trauma to your rap sheet today?" The attacker hesitated, glancing toward Lily, who was indeed watching wide-eyed from the bench, then back at Sebastian. Something in Sebastian's stance must have telegraphed his training, because the man suddenly bolted, racing away along the riverbank without the purse. Sebastian started after him, but stopped when he heard the woman's sob. The attacker was already disappearing around the bend, and his priority had to be the victims. "Are you hurt?" he asked, approaching her slowly, hands still visible. She shook her head, mascara-stained tears tracking down her cheeks. He said he knew who I was, that my father would pay." Her voice broke. "I thought he was going to kidnap me." "You're safe now," Sebastian assured her, offering his hand. She took it and he helped her to her feet. "I'm Sebastian Martinez. That's my daughter Lily over there." "Emma Osgood," she replied, her voice steadying slightly. "Thank you." "I don't know what would have happened if," she broke off, glancing at Lily, who was now bouncing anxiously on the bench. "Wait, your daughter knew my name," Sebastian frowned. "She did, didn't she? Lily, come here, sweetheart. It's okay now." Lily ran over, her curly ponytail bouncing. "Miss Osgood, are you okay? You visit our school sometimes with your dad for the scholarship assembly. I'm in Mrs. Wilson's 3rd grade class." Recognition dawned on Emma's face. "Fairview Elementary, of course." She knelt despite her disheveled state. "You wrote that essay about firefighters that won last year, didn't you? About your dad." Lily beamed proudly. "That's my dad. He saves people all the time." Sebastian felt his face warm. The essay competition had been sponsored by the Osgood Foundation, which meant this young woman was Emma Osgood, daughter of Edward Osgood, the tech billionaire whose corporate headquarters dominated downtown. The same foundation that had given Lily a small scholarship that had helped tremendously after his ex-wife had moved across the country, leaving him struggling to balance single parenthood with a firefighter's demanding schedule and modest salary. "We should call the police," Sebastian said, pulling out his phone. Emma nodded, then winced as she shifted her weight. "I think I twisted my ankle when he pushed me." Without hesitation, Sebastian offered his arm for support. As she leaned against him, he caught the scent of something floral and expensive, a stark contrast to the sweat and river smell that surely clung to him after his run. "You should sit down," he said, guiding her toward a nearby bench. "Lily, can you get Miss Osgood's purse? It's over by the water." As Lily carefully retrieved the designer bag, Sebastian called 911, reporting the attack and giving a description of the assailant. Emma watched him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You're very calm in a crisis," she remarked after he ended the call. Occupational requirement, he replied with a small smile. Been a firefighter for 12 years. Daddy's the lieutenant now, Lily added proudly, returning with the purse. But we still have to be careful with money 'cause Mommy moved away and doesn't help much. Lily, Sebastian admonished gently, embarrassed. That's private family business. Emma accepted her purse with a grateful smile for Lily before looking up at Sebastian. I should call my father, he'll be worried. As she made the call, Sebastian couldn't help noticing how quickly her demeanor changed. Her voice became more measured, her posture straighter despite her injury. She was clearly accustomed to projecting composure. The call was brief, clinical almost, ending with, Yes, father, I understand. I'll wait for them. When she hung up, she sighed. Security team is on the way. Father wants me to go straight to the hospital for a checkup. That's probably wise, Sebastian agreed. Shock can mask injuries sometimes. 2 police cruisers arrived within minutes, followed shortly by a black SUV with tinted windows. A man in a suit emerged, speaking urgently into an earpiece. Emma's security, Sebastian presumed. As Emma gave her statement to the officers, Sebastian provided his account of what happened. Lily sat quietly beside him, occasionally adding details about the bad man that only a child would notice, like how his shoelaces were different colors, and he had a small tattoo on his wrist. When the formalities were concluded, Emma's security detail was clearly eager to whisk her away. Before allowing herself to be led to the waiting vehicle, however, she paused in front of Sebastian. Thank you, she said simply, reaching out to shake his hand. Her grip was firmer than he expected. If you hadn't been here, she glanced at Lily and seemed to reconsider her words. Well, I'm very grateful, Sebastian nodded. Anyone would have done the same. No, she replied, her hazel eyes meeting his directly. They wouldn't have. Most people would have kept jogging. She hesitated, then pulled a business card from her purse. If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to call. I mean it. Sebastian accepted the card reflexively, though he had no intention of using it. I appreciate that. Take care of that ankle, Miss Osgood. Emma, she corrected, with the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. Please call me Emma. With that, she allowed herself to be helped into the SUV, which drove away with a police escort. Is she a princess, Daddy? Lily asked as they watched the vehicles disappear. Sebastian tucked the business card into his pocket with a small laugh. No, sweetheart. Just someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But she's rich like a princess, Lily persisted. And pretty too. And you saved her like in the stories. Life isn't a fairy tale, Lil, Sebastian said, taking her hand as they resumed their walk home. And we've got pancakes to make before your soccer practice, remember? As they walked, Sebastian couldn't help thinking about Emma Osgood's eyes, the fear in them during the attack, and the surprising warmth when she'd smiled at him. But their worlds couldn't be more different. He was a 34-year-old single dad living paycheck to paycheck in a modest apartment, while she was the heir to one of the city's largest fortunes, living in a reality he could barely imagine. It was a chance encounter, nothing more. By next week, she'd have forgotten all about the firefighter who happened to be in the right place at the right time. 2 days later, Sebastian was at the firehouse, finishing paperwork after a particularly grueling shift involving a 3-alarm blaze at a downtown warehouse, when the station captain called him into his office. Martinez, there's someone here to see you. Captain Reynolds looked bemused. Says she's Emma Osgood, as in Osgood Technologies. Sebastian set down his pen, frowning. Emma Osgood, here, in the flesh, with a security detail waiting outside. That's making Wilson nervous. What exactly did you do on your day off? Sebastian quickly explained the park incident while following the captain to the station's modest reception area. And there she was, looking perfectly composed in a simple but clearly expensive blue dress, her auburn hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. The only evidence of her ordeal was a supportive boot on her right ankle. Miss Osgood, Sebastian said, surprised. Is everything okay? Emma turned at the sound of his voice, a warm smile breaking across her face. Mr. Martinez. Yes, everything's fine. I hope I'm not interrupting. Sebastian, please, and no, we were just finishing up. He glanced at Captain Reynolds, who took the hint and discreetly retreated, though not without a curious backward glance. I wanted to thank you properly, Emma said, shifting slightly on her injured ankle. The police caught him, you know. The man from the park. He was part of a group targeting wealthy families for ransoms. Your description helped them identify him. That's good news, Sebastian said, genuinely relieved, but you didn't need to come all the way here to tell me that. Emma hesitated, then reached into her handbag. No, I came to give you this. She handed him an envelope. Sebastian took it reluctantly, already sensing what it might contain. Miss Osgood, Emma, I appreciate the gesture, but I didn't help you for a reward. I know, she said quickly. That's precisely why she stopped herself. Please, just open it. With a sigh, Sebastian opened the envelope. Inside was not the check he'd feared, but a letter on Osgood Foundation letterhead. It was a notification that Lily Martinez had been awarded a full educational scholarship through college, provided she maintained reasonable academic standing. I can't accept this, Sebastian said immediately, though his heart raced at the opportunities this would give Lily. It's too much. It's not for me personally, Emma explained. My father was very moved by what you did. The foundation has these scholarships and Lily's already in our system from her essay win. This is just expanding that existing commitment. Sebastian looked at her skeptically. Okay, she admitted, I may have advocated strongly for her case, but my father made the final decision, and he'd be offended if you refused. Sebastian ran a hand through his hair, conflicted. This would mean everything to Lily. But I don't want her to think that helping people comes with payouts. That's not why I do what I do. Of course not, Emma agreed, but accepting help when it's offered, that's a valuable lesson too. She hesitated, then added more softly, consider it a thank you not just from me, but from all the families whose loved ones were saved from that kidnapping ring. The police think there were at least 6 other potential targets. Put that way, Sebastian found it harder to refuse. I'll need to think about it, he said finally. Of course, Emma nodded, and there was one other thing. She looked suddenly less confident. Lily mentioned during our brief conversation that she's interested in science. The foundation is hosting a STEM event for kids at the Natural Science Museum this Saturday. Demonstrations, hands-on activities, that sort of thing. I thought she might enjoy it. Sebastian raised an eyebrow. Are you inviting my daughter to a foundation event? I'm inviting both of you, Emma clarified quickly. It's just that, well, after what happened, I've had trouble sleeping. Nightmares. My therapist suggested positive associations might help. Spending time with you and Lily, the people who helped me in a safe, public setting, could be beneficial. She looked down, seemingly embarrassed by the admission. But if it's imposing, no, Sebastian interrupted, surprised by her vulnerability. It's not imposing. Actually, Lily would love it. Science is definitely her thing. She's been saving for a microscope for months. Emma's face brightened. That's perfect. The event runs from 10 to 4, but you could come for as long or short as you like. We have soccer until noon, but we could come after, Sebastian found himself saying, though part of him was screaming that this was crossing a line he shouldn't cross. Emma Osgood wasn't someone who should be in his orbit. Wonderful. I'll email you the details. Do you have a card, or? She trailed off, realizing that firefighters don't typically carry business cards. Sebastian scribbled his email on a notepad from the reception desk. Here. But really, you don't need to do anything special for us. Regular admission is fine. Of course, Emma agreed, though something in her smile suggested she had no intention of treating them like regular attendees. After she left, Captain Reynolds reappeared, eyebrows raised. So you're on a first-name basis with an Osgood now. It's not like that, Sebastian protested. I was just in the right place at the right time. Uh-huh, the captain said skeptically, and she came all the way down to our humble firehouse because. Sebastian sighed, unable to explain the scholarship without sounding like he was either bragging or accepting payment for doing his job. She wanted to let me know they caught the guy. Right. Reynolds didn't look convinced. Well, whatever's going on, just be careful. People like that live in a different world. Nothing's going on, Sebastian insisted, though the captain's warning echoed his own thoughts. She's just grateful, that's all. But as he finished his paperwork and headed home to relieve Mrs. Gonzalez, his elderly neighbor who watched Lily after school, Sebastian couldn't stop thinking about Emma's smile and the way she'd admitted her vulnerability so honestly. For someone raised in wealth and privilege, she was surprisingly genuine. Saturday arrived with perfect early fall weather. Sebastian watched Lily dominate her soccer game. His fierce little midfielder never backed down from larger opponents before they headed home to change. "Are we really going to meet the rich lady from the park?" Lily asked as she pulled on her favorite science t-shirt, the one with planets circling the words "Girls Rule the Universe." "Her name is Miss Osgood," Sebastian reminded her. "And yes, but remember what we talked about. She's just a regular person who happens to have a wealthy family. We treat her with the same respect we show everyone, no special treatment either way." "I know, Daddy," Lily said, rolling her eyes in that way that made her seem older than 8. "But she was nice and pretty, and she likes science too." "She works for her family's foundation that supports education," Sebastian explained, choosing not to address the pretty comment. "That's her job." When they arrived at the museum, Sebastian was prepared to wait in the regular admission line, but a staff member approached almost immediately. "Mr. Martinez, Miss Osgood asked me to watch for you. Please follow me." Lily's eyes widened with excitement as they were led through a side entrance directly into the exhibit hall. The space was filled with interactive displays, each staffed by enthusiastic scientists and educators. Children of various ages clustered around tables where robots moved, chemical reactions bubbled, and 3D printers created intricate structures. "Sebastian, Lily, you made it," Emma approached them, looking casually elegant in dark jeans and a simple blouse. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, and she'd traded the supportive boot for a discreet ankle brace. She seemed more relaxed than their previous meetings, more in her element. "Wow," Lily breathed, taking in the exhibits. "This is amazing." Emma knelt to Lily's level, her face lighting up. "Wait until you see the microscope station. They have specimens you can examine and photograph yourself," Lily gasped. "Really? Can we go there first, Daddy, please?" "Lead the way," Sebastian said, unable to suppress a smile at his daughter's excitement. As Emma guided them through the exhibits, Sebastian was struck by how naturally she interacted with Lily, explaining concepts at just the right level without talking down to her. It was clear this wasn't just a professional persona, she genuinely loved science and sharing it with children. At the microscope station, Emma introduced Lily to a young female biologist who showed her how to prepare slides. Sebastian stood back, watching his daughter's face light up as she examined cells, crystals, and tiny organisms, Emma beside her pointing out interesting features. "She's a natural," Emma said, stepping back to stand beside Sebastian. "Most kids her age get bored after 2 or 3 slides." "She's been obsessed with how things work since she could talk," Sebastian replied proudly. "Gets it from her mother. Caroline's a research chemist, and not from her firefighter father who runs into dangerous situations to save people," Emma asked with a raised eyebrow. "I'd say that curiosity and courage run on both sides." Sebastian felt his face warm at the compliment. "Different kind of courage. Lily's is the intellectual kind. She'll solve problems I can't even understand someday." They continued through the exhibits, Lily running ahead to each new station while Sebastian and Emma followed at a more measured pace. Between explaining exhibits to Lily, Emma shared stories about growing up with a father obsessed with technology, learning to code before she could properly write, and her own eventual rebellion choosing environmental science instead of computer engineering. "Father eventually came around," she explained as they watched Lily build a wind turbine model. "Especially when I pointed out that sustainable tech was the future of his industry. Now I split my time between the Foundation's educational initiatives and consulting on Osgood Technologies' green energy division." "That's impressive," Sebastian said sincerely. "You've carved your own path while still honoring your family's legacy." Emma looked at him curiously. "Most people just hear rich girl playing at having a career. They assume I could quit anytime and live off my trust fund." "Could you?" Sebastian asked frankly. "Technically, yes," she admitted. "But what kind of life would that be? Purpose matters more than comfort." She glanced at him. I imagine you understand that better than most, Sebastian nodded. Every firefighter does. None of us do it for the money. As the afternoon progressed, Sebastian found himself increasingly drawn to Emma, not just her obvious beauty, but her intelligence, her genuine interest in Lily, and the quiet determination that seemed to drive her. Despite their vastly different circumstances, he found more common ground with her than he'd expected. After nearly 3 hours, they reached the final exhibit, a virtual reality space simulation where visitors could experience a spacewalk. Lily was beside herself with excitement, but when they reached the front of the line, she suddenly turned to Emma. "You should try it with me," she said earnestly. "It's more fun to explore space with a friend." Emma looked surprised, then touched. "I'd be honored to be your space exploration partner." As they donned the VR headsets, Sebastian watched from the sidelines, struck by how quickly his cautious, sometimes shy daughter had opened up to Emma. There was something about Emma that invited trust, a genuineness that transcended her privileged background. When the simulation ended, Lily was bubbling with excitement, recounting every detail to Sebastian while Emma watched with an affectionate smile. The event was winding down, families drifting toward the exits. "We should probably head out," Sebastian said, noting the time. "Lily has homework to finish before tomorrow." "Of course," Emma nodded, but Lily's face fell. "Already, but we didn't see everything." "Actually," Emma said hesitantly, "the museum cafe is still open. Maybe we could grab a quick snack before you go. My treat as a thank you for coming today." Sebastian started to decline automatically, but the hopeful look on Lily's face stopped him. "Just a quick snack," he agreed. "Then homework, young lady." Over ice cream for Lily and coffee for the adults, their conversation continued easily. Sebastian found himself sharing stories about particularly memorable rescues, while Emma described environmental research expeditions that had taken her from the Arctic to the Amazon. "The Foundation must keep you traveling a lot," Sebastian remarked. A shadow crossed Emma's face. "Less now. After my mother died 3 years ago, Father became protective. The incident in the park didn't help." "I'm sorry about your mother," Sebastian said sincerely. Emma nodded her thanks. "It's just Father and me now. He throws himself into work. I try to balance the Foundation duties with actually living my life. It's an ongoing negotiation." "Being overprotective is a parent thing," Sebastian said, glancing at Lily, who was concentrating on arranging her ice cream toppings in precise patterns. "We're all just terrified of failing the people who matter most." "Is that why you became a firefighter?" Emma asked. "To protect people?" Sebastian considered the question. "Partly, but it's also about being useful in moments when most people feel helpless. There's nothing worse than wanting to help and not knowing how. Like seeing someone struggling and walking past," Emma said quietly. "Or throwing money at problems without getting your hands dirty." Their eyes met, and Sebastian felt an unexpected connection, both of them, in their different ways, trying to make a tangible difference in a world that often rewarded passivity and distance. The moment was broken when Lily tugged on Sebastian's sleeve. "Daddy, can Miss Emma come to my science fair next month? I'm doing a project on fire-resistant materials." Sebastian hesitated, caught off guard by the invitation and unsure of the appropriate boundaries. "Lily, Miss Emma is very busy with her work. I'd love to," Emma interrupted, then looked at Sebastian apologetically. "If that's okay with your dad, of course." Put on the spot, Sebastian nodded. "Sure, if you're genuinely interested and have the time." "I am, and I'll make time," Emma said firmly, then added with a smile. "Fire-resistant materials are actually relevant to some projects we're funding. I could maybe even provide some resources for your research, Lily." Lily beamed, and Sebastian felt a familiar mix of pride in his daughter and uncertainty about the developing situation. Emma Osgood was becoming more than just a chance encounter, and he wasn't sure what to make of that. As they finally prepared to leave, Emma walked them to the museum entrance. She knelt to give Lily a hug, which his daughter returned enthusiastically, then stood to face Sebastian. "Thank you for coming today," she said. "It meant a lot to have you both here." "We should be thanking you," Sebastian replied. "Lily had an amazing time." "So did I," Emma said, holding his gaze for a moment longer than necessary. More than you might guess. As they said their goodbyes, Sebastian couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had shifted. This wasn't just about gratitude anymore. The way Emma looked at him, the easy conversation, the genuine connection she'd formed with Lily, it all pointed to something deeper developing. And despite all his practical objections, their different worlds, the complications it could bring, the potential for disappointment, Sebastian realized he wasn't as opposed to the idea as he should be. Over the next few weeks, what began as occasional texts about resources for Lily's science project evolved into a regular correspondence between Sebastian and Emma. She would send articles about new firefighting technologies. He would reply with his practical perspective from the field. She shared photos from a foundation trip to a rural school. He sent a picture of Lily's completed science project prototype. They were building a friendship based on mutual respect and shared values, despite their vastly different circumstances. Sebastian found himself looking forward to her messages, appreciating her insight and her subtle humor. When Lily's science fair arrived, Sebastian was surprised but pleased when Emma actually showed up, having rearranged a foundation meeting to attend. She listened intently to Lily's presentation, asked thoughtful questions, and beamed with pride when Lily won second place in her division. "She's remarkable," Emma told Sebastian as they watched Lily excitedly showing her medal to her teacher. "You've raised an incredible young woman." "I can't take all the credit," Sebastian admitted. "She came with most of the good parts built in." Emma laughed, then grew more serious. "You know, I've been thinking about what you said about purpose being more important than comfort. I've had meetings with my father about redirecting some of the foundation's resources toward practical community safety initiatives, including firefighter support programs." "That sounds worthwhile," Sebastian said, genuinely impressed. "Most philanthropists prefer flashier causes." "Yes, well, I've gained some personal perspective recently on the importance of first responders," Emma said with a meaningful glance. After the science fair, Emma invited them to dinner to celebrate Lily's achievement. Sebastian initially hesitated, but Lily's enthusiasm and his own growing feelings for Emma overcame his reservations. The restaurant Emma chose was upscale, but not ostentatious, a family-owned Italian place where she was clearly known but not fawned over. Throughout dinner, Sebastian watched the easy rapport between Emma and Lily, how naturally they had bonded over shared interests, and how genuinely Emma seemed to care about his daughter's thoughts and dreams. When Lily excused herself to the restroom, Emma turned to Sebastian with uncharacteristic nervousness. "Sebastian, I've been wanting to ask you something, but I'm not sure how to navigate this unusual situation we find ourselves in." Sebastian set down his water glass. "Just ask directly." "I prefer straightforward communication. Would you like to have dinner with me, just the two of us?" Emma asked, meeting his eyes. "I enjoy spending time with you and Lily, but I'd like to get to know you better in a context that isn't centered around educational events or Lily's activities." Despite having suspected this might be coming, Sebastian still found himself caught off guard by the directness of her invitation. "Emma, He hesitated, organizing his thoughts. "I'm a single dad with a demanding job that doesn't pay particularly well. My life revolves around my daughter and my work. You're brilliant, beautiful, and could literally have any man you wanted. Are you sure I'm someone you want to invest time in getting to know romantically?" "I'm not in the habit of making investments I haven't thoroughly researched," Emma replied with a small smile. "I know exactly who you are, Sebastian. That's why I'm asking. And your father, the billionaire tech mogul, how would he feel about his daughter dating a firefighter?" "My father trusts my judgment," Emma said simply. "And he was impressed by what you did for me. Character matters to him more than bank accounts." Sebastian considered her words carefully. His attraction to Emma had grown steadily over the past weeks, but he'd kept it firmly in check, assuming their connection would remain friendly but distant. The prospect of actually pursuing something more substantial both excited and terrified him. "Lily has to be my priority," he said finally. "Any relationship I have affects her directly." "I understand that," Emma nodded. And I respect it. I've grown quite fond of Lily, but I would never want to complicate her life negatively. Sebastian took a deep breath. Then yes, I'd like to have dinner with you. Emma's face lit up with a genuine smile that made his heart skip. Good, because I've been hoping you'd say that since about the second week of texting. Their first official date was surprisingly simple dinner at a waterfront restaurant, followed by a walk along the riverfront. Without Lily as a buffer, Sebastian had worried there might be awkward silences, or that their differences would become more apparent. But the conversation flowed as easily as it had in their messages. Emma shared more about growing up in the shadow of her father's success, the pressure to excel, and the isolation that came with wealth. Sebastian opened up about his divorce, the challenges of co-parenting long distance, and his constant worry about balancing work with being present for Lily. Caroline and I just wanted different things, he explained as they walked along the riverfront, the city lights reflecting on the water. She got a research opportunity in California that was too good to pass up. We tried long distance for a while, but eventually had to admit we were growing in different directions. Was it hard for Lily when her mother moved? Emma asked gently. Sebastian nodded. Very, she was only 5. We've made it work with video calls and summer visits, but it's not the same. Caroline's building an important career, doing research that could help a lot of people. I don't begrudge her that, but it doesn't erase the impact on Lily, Emma finished, or on you. Exactly. Lily understands in theory why her mom isn't here, but emotionally, it's still hard. Emma was quiet for a moment. My mother was physically present but often emotionally distant, always planning charity galas and foundation events, maintaining the appropriate social connections. I sometimes wondered if I was just another project to be managed. She glanced at Sebastian. That's what impressed me about you from the beginning. You're so completely present with Lily. When you're with her, she's your whole world. She is my world, Sebastian said simply. Everything else is secondary. That's rare, Emma said quietly, and incredibly attractive. Their eyes met, and Sebastian felt the connection between them deepen. On impulse, he reached for her hand. Emma's fingers interlaced with his without hesitation, fitting perfectly. As the weeks passed, Sebastian and Emma's relationship grew steadily. They developed a routine that respected his shift schedule and her foundation commitments, while including Lily appropriately. Family movie nights at Sebastian's modest apartment alternated with educational outings where Lily could experience new things. Emma never flaunted her wealth, but occasionally used her connections to provide opportunities Sebastian couldn't have afforded, like behind-the-scenes tours at the planetarium or tickets to a sold-out science exhibition. Each time, Sebastian wrestled with his pride before ultimately accepting that these experiences benefited Lily. Emma was careful to never make him feel like a charity case, and he gradually realized that sharing these moments genuinely brought her joy. The first time Sebastian brought Emma to a firehouse barbecue, he'd been nervous about how his colleagues would receive her. Would they see her as slumming, or would she come across as condescending? Instead, Emma charmed everyone with her genuine interest in their work, her pointed questions about equipment needs, and her willingness to get competitive during the traditional volleyball match. Your guys were testing me, she said afterward as they drove home, Lily sleeping in the backseat. Maybe a little, Sebastian admitted. They're protective. I get it, Emma nodded. My father's executive team practically interrogated me when they realized I was dating someone outside our usual circles. And what did you tell them? Sebastian asked, curious. Emma smiled, reaching for his hand across the console. That I'd found someone real in a world of carefully constructed images, someone who values people over possessions and integrity over influence. She squeezed his fingers. I told them you make me want to be better. 4 months into their relationship, they faced their first major challenge when Emma Osgood requested a formal dinner to meet the man his daughter was serious about. Despite Emma's reassurances, Sebastian was understandably anxious. He's just a man, Emma insisted as she helped Sebastian straighten his tie in the hallway mirror of her penthouse apartment. A brilliant, sometimes intimidating man, but still just a person. A person who built a tech empire from nothing and now controls half the digital infrastructure of the country, Sebastian pointed out, who probably had me thoroughly investigated the moment you mentioned my name. Emma's slight hesitation confirmed his suspicion. He's protective, she said finally, but he was genuinely impressed by what you did that day in the park, and he respects that you didn't try to leverage that for personal gain. Sebastian had finally accepted the scholarship for Lily, understanding that refusing would only hurt his daughter's future, but he'd been firm about declining any other assistance or gifts that might blur the lines of his relationship with Emma. Dinner with Edward Osgood was initially as intimidating as Sebastian had feared. The older man was sharp, direct, and clearly evaluating every response Sebastian gave. But when the conversation turned to Lily, Sebastian's natural confidence emerged. Speaking about his daughter's accomplishments and dreams, his hopes for her future, and the values he was trying to instill in her, Sebastian found himself on solid ground. "You've raised a remarkable young woman," Edward said, echoing his daughter's earlier assessment. "In my experience, that's the true measure of a man, not his bank account or credentials, but what he contributes to the next generation." By the end of the evening, Sebastian had earned, if not the tech mogul's wholehearted approval, at least his respect, which Emma later assured him was more than most people ever received. "He actually liked you," she marveled as they shared a nightcap on her balcony afterward. "I could tell by the way he kept trying to recruit you to consult on emergency response protocols for our buildings." Sebastian laughed. "I thought he was just being polite." "My father doesn't do polite unless there's a strategic advantage," Emma assured him. "He genuinely saw value in your perspective." As their relationship approached the 6-month mark, Sebastian found himself contemplating a future with Emma in ways he hadn't dared to earlier. The differences in their backgrounds still existed, but they had proven less important than the values and priorities they shared. Emma had seamlessly integrated into his life, adapting to his schedule, bonding with Lily, and never making him feel inadequate despite the disparity in their financial situations. More importantly, she had shown herself to be genuinely invested in both Sebastian and Lily as people, not as projects or obligations. She celebrated their successes, supported them through challenges, and had become a trusted confidante and partner. One evening, as they prepared dinner together in Sebastian's kitchen while Lily finished homework at the dining table, Emma brought up an idea she'd clearly been considering for some time. "The lease on your apartment is up next month, isn't it?" She asked casually, though Sebastian could detect the underlying nervousness in her voice. "It is," he confirmed. "I've been meaning to talk to the landlord about renewal terms." Emma set down the knife she was using to chop vegetables. "I've been thinking about buying a house. Something with a yard closer to Lily's school." She glanced at him. "Something that would have space for a firefighter and his daughter if they were interested in sharing it." Sebastian paused in stirring the pasta sauce. "Emma, are you asking us to move in with you?" "I'm suggesting we find a place together," she clarified. "Not my penthouse, not your apartment, something that would be ours, something that would work for all three of us." The distinction was important, and Sebastian appreciated her sensitivity to his pride. "That's a big step." "It is," Emma agreed. "But I love you, Sebastian, and I love Lily. The past 6 months have shown me what I want my future to look like, and both of you are essential parts of it." Sebastian set down the wooden spoon and turned to face her fully. "I love you too," he said simply. It wasn't the first time he'd said the words, but the context gave them new weight. "But this isn't just about us. Lily, ask me." Lily's voice came from the doorway where she had apparently been listening. "I vote yes. Can I have a telescope in my room?" Emma laughed, her eyes suspiciously bright. "Eavesdropping is rude, young lady, but yes, if your father agrees, a telescope could definitely be arranged." Sebastian looked between the two most important people in his life, both watching him expectantly. "You're both pretty confident about my answer, aren't you?" Emma shrugged, a smile playing at her lips. "We've researched the probabilities and found them favorable." Sebastian pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "In that case, I vote yes too." Over dinner, they discussed the practicalities, neighborhoods, commute times, what features they each wanted in a home. Lily's list was predictably science-focused: a backyard for experiments, good internet for research, space for a proper laboratory someday. While Sebastian's concerns were more practical: proximity to the firehouse, good schools, affordability. When Sebastian raised concerns about the financial aspects, Emma was refreshingly direct. "I'm not suggesting we split costs evenly. That would be unrealistic and unnecessary. But we can structure things so that you contribute meaningfully within your means while I handle the larger expenses." Partnership doesn't have to mean identical contributions. Her approach, practical, respectful, and focused on creating a balanced relationship despite their different resources, helped ease Sebastian's concerns. This wasn't about charity or dependence. It was about building a life together where each contributed what they could. 3 months later, they moved into a spacious but not ostentatious house in a good neighborhood with excellent schools. True to Emma's word, it had a yard big enough for Lily's experiments, was within reasonable distance of Sebastian's firehouse, and included a dedicated space that could evolve into Lily's laboratory as she grew older. Emma converted one bedroom into a home office where she could handle foundation work when not at headquarters, while Sebastian insisted on taking charge of lawn maintenance and most household repairs, areas where his practical skills could shine. The adjustment wasn't without challenges. Sebastian sometimes still struggled with the knowledge that Emma could easily afford luxuries he couldn't provide independently. Lily occasionally had to be reminded that not all her friends' families had the same resources. Emma had to learn to navigate the complex dynamics of step-parent-like authority while respecting Sebastian's role as Lily's father. But the foundation they'd built, mutual respect, open communication, and shared values, helped them weather these adjustments. A year after their chance encounter in the park, Sebastian found himself sitting on their back deck, watching Emma help Lily adjust her new telescope while the sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "Daddy, come see Saturn's rings," Lily called excitedly. "Emma showed me how to find them." As Sebastian joined them, squinting through the eyepiece at the distant planet, he felt a profound sense of rightness. This remarkable woman, who could have had anything and anyone, had chosen to build a life with him and his daughter. Not out of obligation or gratitude for a moment of courage, but because she'd found in them what had been missing in her privileged but emotionally sparse world: genuine connection, unconditional love, and the simple joy of being valued for who she was rather than what she represented. When Lily ran inside to get her astronomy notebook, Sebastian pulled Emma into his arms. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Showing her how to find Saturn. You could have done that yourself." "For seeing us," Sebastian clarified. "Really seeing us, when you could have just written a check and forgotten all about the firefighter and his daughter who happened to be in the right place that day." Emma's eyes softened as she traced his jawline with her fingertips. "That firefighter saved more than just my life, you know. He saved me from believing that genuine connections weren't possible in my world, that real love was something that happened to other people." She stood on tiptoe to kiss him gently. "I'm the fortunate one, Sebastian Martinez. Never doubt that." As Lily burst back onto the deck, notebook in hand and bubbling with questions about distant galaxies, Sebastian knew that what had begun as a chance rescue had evolved into something far more meaningful: a family formed not by obligation or circumstance, but by choice. Every day. A love born not of fantasy or convenience, but of genuine understanding and deliberate commitment to building something lasting together. And that, he thought as he watched the two remarkable women who had transformed his life, was worth more than all the wealth in the world.